you having just been up on stage for 2.25 hours this morning talking about a lot of new things. It's a very good barometer of sort of the reaction and the feeling from the audience. So in hindsight, what do you think really resonated? What was important?
Well, wow. I've done a number of keynotes over the years, and I don't think I remember a keynote with as many spontaneous applauses. And so that's the kind of real direct feedback that you get. And then that's, completely irrefutable. And then the rest of it is the body language of the audience. And I usually get my own energy from resonating with my audience, because for me, as a, when I'm presenting, I'm trying to do something good and useful, for the people I'm talking to, because otherwise I think I'm wasting your time. Because we can, if you just want a sales pitch, we have sort of processes for that. But in terms of providing context around ideas that then allow you to see and connect the dots around the things that we're doing, that's really what I try to do. And the very natural buzz and feel in the room was really, was great. So, I wasn't watching the live Twitter feed on my Apple Watch, but I still haven't seen anything because I've just been at a luncheon. But I've heard that there's been some very good reaction to the announcements we made around Workspace Cloud, and certainly the announcements we made about Zen app, because we have so many customers that are running major app clouds on Zen app and environments on Zen app. And then you can see the continued progress in the Zen mobile area. Tomorrow we'll have some more fun with Zen mobile. You'll see some inventions and innovations you won't see anywhere else, I promise. And in the mobile area. And so it just felt great. What else can I say? The question is, how did you all feel? I mean, you could tell I wasn't having any fun. Other than that, the mouse problem, the problem is there's too much. Oh, thanks, Frank. There's too much radio frequency in the air for Bluetooth devices to work reliably. So, by the way, while one of the videos was playing, I'm saying to myself, all right, this is, I can't take this. So I walked back over, and it was fine. It's just that at the time, I guess there was too much interference. Questions?
I felt there was this pregnant pause in the room. Mark, Bob Egan from Separate. Hi, Mark. First of all, great keynote.
Thank you.
I called you the CEO this morning, taking a page out of T-Mobile, because you're up there soldiering through demos. I think it was a great keynote this morning.
Thank you.
But play a little hardball for a minute. You've made a lot of progress. Citrix Workspace Cloud's now coming to marketplace. You made progress in the Zen app. Microsoft is not standing still. VMware is not standing still. Cisco's doing some interesting stuff. So, talk about where you are from a competitive environment and where you intend to take the company.
Yeah. Okay. I'd say that it's a complex world, and co-opetition is in a place where it's never been before. And they're like, I say to our big partners, it's like you can't be upset with us just like we're not upset with you for being in a space, because the problem is all the cookies have been licked. Okay? So, and so all the cookies have been licked, and therefore no matter what cookie you bite, you're going to be biting a cookie that someone else licked. All right? By definition. All right? So that's the reality of the world, all right? So then you have to then never forget to keep the lens on the customer, okay? And I'm not saying that in a theoretical sense, I'm saying that in actually a technical sense. What do I mean by that? Is knowing what customers you're in a better position to serve long term than your competitors. We think we're in a better position to serve customers that have either very simple requirements or very complex requirements. And so the complex requirements are massive segments like healthcare, pharma, gov, engineering, construction, finance and banking, etc. Okay, and the simpler end of the marketplace is are the SMB type customers, you know, and that don't have an IT department, but have in those same sectors have the same regulatory requirements, have the same concerns around security, experience, simplicity, etc. So we think that those are two major thrusts that, you know, we can make, and then leverage the, you know, the platforms of Microsoft and others. And I think we're going to, you'll see tomorrow, if you're going to attend tomorrow, we'll show you how, you know, even if you decide, if you, a customer, decides that a workspace is DAS, because customers are allowed to decide that, you know, we don't decide it, they do, then you can add our apps, and you can add our networking, and you can add our concierge services, and you can add, you know, a number of our services, workspace services, to even those environments, right? Because in the end, you know, you want customers to be able to have the choice. So, yeah, it's a complex world, and I think that, you know, the thinking that a lot of people tend to have because of the past in this sort of winner takes all kind of thinking is not the thinking, you know, of the future. If you look at newer markets, even like document, you know, take our ShareFile, you know, product. I mean, you know, we're in the top 5 in market share, you know, kind of in general, but it's a very fragmented market and likely to be so forever, right? There's probably nothing to, you know, to gel it completely to a winner that takes all. Same thing goes for collaboration, you know, in tools like GoToMeeting. And so, you know, we don't worry about that. We worry about understanding our customer and, you know, following them. And I think we know who our customers are. So that's how.
So is the emphasis about having the portfolios that increase wallet share so that they decide to use ShareFile versus the Dropbox?
Yeah. Yes, we're always trying to increase wallet share. And, well, we're always trying to increase wallet share. That's opportunity. But the first thing we're trying to do is make sure customers have a great experience with what they've already bought, and that's obligation. Okay. But yes, you know, wallet share is what it's about. So, you know, if you, for example, customers that use GoToMeeting will see soon that adding a subscription to ShareFile gives them a better collaboration experience because you'll have persistence to documents and some other features in that area that tie those two products together. And then the usage goes up in terms of the time used, and therefore the value delivered is better, and you get the larger share of the wallet. And we'll do that, and we have been doing that through integrations. You know, our networking business has done extremely well because of all of the great integrations we've done. We'll talk more about this tomorrow between NetScaler and our virtualization products around HDX, you know, insights in terms of analytics, acceleration, securing, quality of service, kind of those things. which is a key part of why we think having an end-to-end approach to this gives us an advantage that our competitors that grew up in the data center or grew up here or there, don't have.
Great. Perfect. Hi, Mark. Paul DeVizio from Gartner. Trying to gauge the impact of what I heard this morning on Workspace Cloud, the impact on Citrix. Is it a new product? Is it an entirely new market? Is it the future of the direction of the company? How would you characterize that?
Yeah, I'd say probably like most software businesses, they're all trending toward being SaaS businesses, And what does that mean? It means the business model, and it means the how delivered model as well. So I'd say yes, this is where all roads will lead, and you'll see us take some of the services that we have that have been harder to market on a premise basis and market them through the cloud because they're easier to turn on and consume that way. I'll give you an example. We have a great product that I put it in the mobile VDI category. And basically you upload or you establish an image of a desktop, right? And then you publish it to mobile workers like maybe that have a Macintosh or a Windows machine or whatever. And we'll create an encrypted container with Windows, that desktop, as an app, right, in any of these capable devices. So there's a lot of sophisticated streaming technology involved, and so which we have, but it's been hard to market and get that in place, within an enterprise IT shop when, as a service, it's much more consumable. So we have a number of technologies that we think we can add to CWC to make them more consumable. Obviously, that's great for us as a business to grow and gives customers more solutions. I think then we're trying to stay, I would say agnostic. It's probably overstated because we don't like forcing customers. We never have forcing customers to do one thing or another because it's like, here, you wear my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes, and then have someone come and try to tell you to do something a certain way. So we try to give choices and accept that some customers may never want to put something in a cloud, infrastructure that they don't own. Because one of the things that is really misunderstood, all right, is cloud is not a place, right? Cloud is a way of doing things, all right? And you can do cloud inside your house, or you can do it outside your house, or you can do it in both. And so we're trying to make sure that we give customers that choice, because we don't think that we should be the ones dictating that. And then the control plane design, all right, we think is the way forward to make the kinds of infrastructure services that we build more consumable, where we can kind of put the complexity up there. Like a lot of these services don't require tons of horsepower, all right? It's more, they require tons of complexity in how you manage them and scale them. And so if we can take that off of the customer and our partners' plates, then they can get on with doing what we believe is the real value add, and that is connecting digital tools to business process and outcomes. I mean, we're massive subscribers to the point of view that you guys have about digital work styles, the digital workplace, and I talked about it a little bit this morning, but it's like my kids, they don't even it's like, what's a slide rule? What's a calculator? I mean, I know a calculator is kind of digital, all right? My first one wasn't, but so we're that, and that's the generation I think that we're all designing for, because that's where the puck's going to be, And if you're, like we are, we tend to be, long-term thinkers and doers. And so we're trying to think about, all right, who are the employees? What's the environment, that's out there that our customers are going to, need to serve? And, it's that kind of a workforce with that kind of a background, with that kind of an expectation, and with the availability of a variety of tools, that are disposable. And I think I didn't use the metaphor this morning, but I should probably use it here just to kind of maybe cement it a little bit with you. But, because we've been on this track for years, so we think of this infrastructure and this approach just like making IT organizations a Netflix, okay? Where they have the infrastructure to be able to connect to any kind of content on one end and to deliver it in a systematic, highly reliable, secure, on-demand way, all right, to an endpoint that they own in the form of an app or in the form of an appliance, but not in the form of a television. They don't own televisions, and neither does Comcast, and neither does DirecTV, etc. And we think the modern IT organization, we've talked about DOS for a long time, not owning stuff. We've been in BYO for a long time, which is about eliminating things. And so what can you eliminate so that you can focus on really what matters, and that's the security, delivery, reliability, and flexibility of apps, data, and the user usage. So, yes, sir.
Hey, Mark. David Strom. As someone who was using slide rules and listening to Moody Blues records in college, I really responded to your, yes, a couple of the old guys are looking at you. Given that your product portfolio has gotten richer and more complicated, what are you doing to enable partners to better package and integrate your products?
Yeah, that's a great question. A few things, all right. So first of all, we've been, I'd say we're about a year and a half down the road in streamlining the portfolio, which is a combination of things. In some cases, it's elimination of a product. Like we acquired a company, had a product called VDI in a box, and we decided, look, here's a simplification. We're just going to exit that business and let someone else take that business. In the meantime, our service providers have been doing fantastic in that market, and that's the market for business-ready desktops for smaller enterprises. So that's one way. Second way is we're doing a much better job of doing the testing and the integration of our products working together in different configurations so that it's easier for our partners to put them together. And part of what you saw in the blueprinting and the lifecycle management demo this morning, reflects that, because customers aren't willing to pay, to connect the head bone to the neck bone anymore. They will, but not much. All right.
So do you think Verizon bought the wrong company today?
Oh, I didn't even hear. What happened?
Yeah, you're too busy today. Yeah, they bought AOL.
Really? Verizon bought AOL? Wow.
$4+ billion.
Yeah. Probably couldn't. I probably don't have an instantaneous reaction. I'd love to hear their rationale, but I'm not. Yeah. So I think we're sorry. I just think that we're in an era. If you just sort of zoom back, because I have we have the same barber apparently. Okay. When I zoom back and I think about, okay, when I first learned about computing, I learned about peeks and pokes and assembler, okay, and then it got easier when it got put into a language where you didn't have to know how all that worked exactly, all right, and so had a layer of abstraction that was higher. And then the languages got more and more sophisticated because they took on higher and higher levels of abstraction and specialization. Like when I was telling my little story this morning, I started my first software, I wrote it in mumps. Probably most of you don't even know what that is. It is a language, and it's a specialty language used in universities, and it's really good at doing simulations. It's specialized around that. But, I kind of broke my pick on it, and then I moved to a 2GL and then a 3GL. And so layers of abstraction. And that's what's been happening year after year after year after year. So when, like, infrastructure as a service, it's like, who needs to know how it works? It's the old IBM story when someone in the training, and when the customer says, yeah, wow, how does it work? The answer is really well. Because it doesn't matter how it works, it's what it does. And I think that's what and that's what sort of the whole industry is going through. And you'll see we're moving that way. So tomorrow we're going to talk about workspace automation, okay? That starts to show how IoT gets applied to business in an office, in a business environment. There's an industrial market, there's a kind of a business enterprise market, obviously there's a consumer market, etc. So yeah, it's an interesting time. Yes.
Hi, Daryl here from IT News Africa. I just want to find out, with the announcements this morning, what is your focus on Africa at the moment?
Oh, wow. Okay, so from a continent or South Africa?
Continent.
Okay, yeah, all right. So our focus in the continent, right, is on a few sectors where the kind of technology that we build is particularly valuable, all right? And it's valuable around security, remoteness, and the reliability of connections, okay? So airlines, important to our business in Africa, all right? Banking, definitely important to our business in Africa. And other forms of transportation, and multinationals. So we're a very sophisticated organization, across the continent, and more so in South Africa, less so in other parts of Africa.
Cool, thanks.
Hi, Jane McCallion. Ooh, very loud from IT Pro in the UK. You mentioned in passing really earlier that you have or rather that SlideShare can be controlled with the Apple Watch. And I know that you guys did GoToMeeting for Android Wear towards the end of last year. Is wearables something you're just kind of dabbling in? Is it something you're taking seriously? And what do you think are the wider implications for your business and I guess business in general?
Yeah, great question. I think the truth is everyone, Jane, everyone is dabbling, okay? Trying to find what the compelling use cases are. Certainly not to tell time, okay? That's not a compelling use case. And, I'm a huge believer in putting your hands on things to have an opinion yourself, I mean, you all are journalists and analysts, etc., and what you write is very important and insightful for perspective, but in the end, all right, having a personal experience, put that Android Wear device on your wrist and see if it's delivering any value. Put the Apple Watch on and see, if it's delivering value, and if so, where. So I think there's a lot of exploration going on right now. I put Apple in kind of the driver's seat, frankly, because developing apps for this is so simple, and they'll get more experimentation faster than anyone else market, I think, right? And I think it's an immutable law of business that if you listen to your customers, that is your most strategic asset, because the conversation you're having with your customer, all right, is a unique conversation that you can monetize if you listen to what they're trying to tell you in terms of what their problems are, where they're going. So whoever sort of gets the most experimentation is going to figure out, where the use cases are. I'd say my early assessment here is that there are there's sparse small use cases, not one killer use case. All right, and I think that the second thing is we'll probably get to a few very compelling killer use cases that are more likely to be around. They could be personal. We think a lot about business computing, right? So, for example, controlling a slideshow from the watch is interesting. It's an experiment, of course, but you'll see some other things from us where maybe the watch is an incredible authentication device. So it's yet another way to understand the context of a situation, okay, and the identity of a person, and to prove that with with the right sort of fingerprinting between a watch and a phone and a whatever else, okay. So I think there's a whole bunch of experimenting to do.
May I just follow up on that quickly? Sorry. And so, extrapolating from that then about how easy it is to build for the platform and experiment on that, is it likely that the killer application is going to appear on Apple Watch first, or am I extrapolating your words too far?
I think that's what I'm saying. I would predict that it would appear on Apple Watch, sooner or first, because I think I think developer community and the consumer community in terms of buying them and wearing them. Look, I've got every single version of Google Wear from every manufacturer that did something with it, all right? And no matter where I would go, I was the only person wearing one, all right? That's not the case with Apple Watch, even though the supply is very limited right now. So yeah, so you can already see that, and they're going to learn fast, and they're going to benefit from that. The developers will take them there.
Hi, Michael. I have a question about how do you think about Citrix, the cloud platforms, and cloud infrastructure's future?
Okay, so we didn't talk a lot about core infrastructure today. We did talk about Zen Server. We did talk about NetScaler. So as a reminder, in the last year and a half plus, we have taken our two core infrastructure projects, Zen and CloudStack, and made them part of mainstream open source communities. CloudStack joined the Apache Software Foundation, and Zen went into the Linux Foundation. And it's made a massive difference in the community and the velocity of those technologies in terms of their development and sophistication. So that's been critical part of our strategy in that area. And then we're consuming those open source projects, as you can tell, in a number of ways. We have a distribution for Zen Server. We have a distribution for CloudStack that's in Cloud Platform. We have about 100 platform type of customers in that area. And we've made it, I don't know if you saw it, but in the in the Workspace Cloud UI, you could see that you can point the services to Cloud Platform. Okay, so any of our customers like BT and KT and IDC Frontier, KDDI, and many others. CWC can point to their environments, and you can use it as the control plane to consume their environments just as easily as Azure or Amazon. So maybe that's a small update, on our cloud platform infrastructure.
Hi, I'm Adriana. I'm from Colombia, and I want to know about workspaces and the digital future in Latin America. What do you think?
Well, I probably don't have an opinion that's worth writing down, okay? Well, I'd say, our business in Latin America is actually pretty good, and I think, Latin America has challenges like the rest of the world around security, persistent threats, cyber threats. Businesses have to operate reliably that are under regulatory compliance. I think that, governments are struggling to get compliance, etc. And all those things help our business. And obviously there have been, economies have been, Latin America, was really solid for a while, now probably going through another cycle. All people, all nations, all families, all companies, experience these cycles. And how you actually learn and get better. So I think in terms of, specifically the digital future in Latin America, I think digital tools are more easy to consume, and I think they're lower cost to provide, and that means, developing, economies can actually take advantage of, in a big way. I remember I think it was 2007, we had, Dave helped me, it's the co-op in Chile, the farm co-op. A co-op in Chile, all right? Do you remember? It's something cooperative, all right? They were a finalist for our Innovation Award, and the entire story was around how they were using Citrix technologies, all right, to create a cooperative that not only could serve the local region, but could export to the rest of the world, right? And so I think that, the digital future for Latin America is, there's a commentary on it, being able to, serve local cultures and economies, by reaching the rest of the world. It's a classic internet story.
It was
Cocomar, yes. So it's a great story, and it touches your heart because you see how people who, they were limited to, a very limited market, and how this opened up the entire world to them.
Hi, Mark. Al Gillen, IDC. Great keynote this morning.
Thank you, Al.
Sure. A couple questions specifically related to the server side, so Zen server. You talked about your container strategy a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I'm assuming that you're going to be in the business of hosting containers, not in the business of helping developers create the contents of the containers. So
yeah, exactly.
And the second part of the question was specifically around Zen server as a hypervisor. Still long-term commitment to Zen server as well as Hyper-V. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes and yes. And so let me, give a little color. So on Zen server, it's basically support for CoreOS, Windows 10, and Docker-style containers. And that means that if you're, for Zen server, if you're a developer or you're one of our cloud platform providers and you're running on Zen Server, anything that's running on Zen Server can take advantage of Docker, capabilities. It's in, this is the first release. Obviously, it's a feature pack, we're consuming Docker in a big way. We haven't really talked a lot about Docker because we don't build development tools, right? But we're a great consumer of Docker. We use Docker, in a lot of places in our infrastructure more and more and more and more because of its characteristics around, auto scaling, footprint, security. I mean, there are a lot of advantages to using Docker. So so that Zen Server supports Docker is great for developers, and there's a big developer community around Zen Server. In fact, I think what's happened since Zen went into the Linux Foundation, it's really given KVM a run for its money in terms of the size and vibrancy of the community. And so, adding things like Docker and other things that we'll, sponsor in the community as a member, we have a huge commitment to the Zen Server. And then, as I mentioned, NetScaler SDX, has Zen Server embedded in it. So last year, just that part of the NetScaler product line, just that model, SDX, was a $100 million business. Okay, so you can tell, we're rather committed. And then we have a tremendous number of customers that use it with Cloud Platform, Cloud Stack, and use it under Zen Desktop and Zen App as well. And that's why it's important. And then obviously Hyper-V, similar commitment, and obviously we don't develop any, we're not the developer of Hyper-V, but we understand Hyper-V a little bit better than the next guy because the APIs, the API architecture around Hyper-V is very similar to the Zen API set. And so that gives us some advantages in a Hyper-V environment. So, yeah, the big commitments in all of the above. Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Schwartz with Redmond Magazine. So with the with Workspace Cloud, you see customers primarily running it on-prem initially in big clouds like Azure and Amazon, or in partner clouds. What do you see the breakdown of how organizations are going to do that? And for those that are on-prem only, you still do have a control plane in Azure. Will that be an issue for some customers?
Yeah, well, okay. So the real direct answer, Jeff, is I don't think we have enough data to know what kind of mix and what kind of patterns there will be, okay, on the consumption side. I would assume that would follow, most of, how the market has, been going when it comes to enterprise use of public cloud infrastructure. And that is obviously DevOps, testing, some DR, those kinds of activities. I think that'll be very common. Proof of concepts. I mean, why would you mess around with buying servers to do a proof of concept? And you can control the security. You can, there'd be lots of control over the security, etc. So I think those will be a lot of early use cases. And then, there are customers that are further along in how they're thinking about use of, infrastructure as a service. And I think that they'll tend to be, the more enlightened in some ways. And we see them, Workspace Cloud as a vehicle for them to accelerate their consumption of clouds like Azure, like AWS, like our own cloud platform providers. So, you know, I think the jury's out. Again, we're trying to put the control in the hands of the customer. So no issue with where the control plane lives, because the control plane, you know, doesn't have any persistent, information that you don't have total control over. First of all, and secondly, it has very little persistent information in it. And, you know, like when you use the cloud connector, it's kind of a read-only pipe into your data center, you know, on a call-out basis. So that's how the Active Directory or a file share or whatever, an Exchange server or whatever would get hooked up. And so I think that's for us to learn, honestly. You know, so we're looking forward to learning that. And, you know, another quarter of tech previews will give us, you know, another, you know, good handful of customers. You saw the fellow from Textron. You know, we have a number of others that are already building and rolling out, and we expect to have a bunch more by the time we announce general availability, pricing, etc. And then you need to think about this importantly, and we'll try to show that a little bit tomorrow. That this is not a static. This is not a static thing, right? It's just like Azure or AWS. You know, they're constantly adding different types of services to it based upon the customers that they're trying to serve, and so we'll add more and more services from our portfolio and new services that we invent that make sense. That can be consumed, you know, in lots of different ways. Not only in a, you know, I mean, you can consume a lot of these services in a physical desktop without any cloud, anything involved, you know. So we're not going to be biased, you know, one way or another. Let the customer dictate that.
So Mark, you have about 10 minutes left and we have a number of questions.
Okay. Okay, all right, let's.
I'm right here, so I'll make mine easy then. So Mark Butler from ESG. So you have an uncanny way to articulate the Citrix vision, kind of top to bottom, left to right. You know how to pull in applications, different productivity apps, networking, server side of things, everything. And then you have a way that you can really personalize that to the customer. So short of you going to visit every new Citrix customer or prospect, what are the top things that you'd have on a wish list that you could ask your sales team and partners to articulate in their conversation with customers?
Yeah. Well, Mark, great question. All right, so the first thing is try it, experience it. And so what I find over and over again is, like most, I mean, it doesn't make us different, I mean, unique, is there's too much PowerPoint and talking and not enough, well, here, okay? So the test drive, you know, everyone who signs up for the test drive, you know, what you're signing up to be is a publisher, all right? And so it'd be like being a publisher of a magazine, but you're only going to get 5 magazines to sell. So you have to choose the subscribers, all right? And then, you know, you'll get that experience of publishing, and you'll be one of the subscribers as well. So that's the first thing. We actually used it a little bit this morning in the demos, but we didn't try to point it out. You might have seen something go by that said DemoNet, all right? So we're standing up a multi-nodal Geo cluster, global, all right, that has, that puts NetScaler in the top, all right? And NetScaler, because it's one of the world's most powerful global server load balancers, will take the call from any device and will intelligently then route you to where you will get the best service from the node that will give you the best service and connect you directly to the gateway that's sitting at the front of that node, all right? And then at the bottom of the node, is our Geo Clustering Software, the Melio software, that actually, creates like a single virtual disk. And that disk can be made up of any combination of NAS, SAN, commodity disks, doesn't matter, right? It looks at it that way, so that anything that goes in there can be consumed on any node, and anytime a node writes, that's available everywhere, and that's important to persona and all of this. So, so the second part of the answer is, that's another, show it, experience it, and then all of that will be is being put into a reference architecture that we'll then teach, okay? And because, there's kind of a right way to do it, right? And then this will, and then this is captured in CWC, and then we take a lot of the knowledge required around the how, all right, and let, the focus go onto the why and the what. And so that's how we do it, and then having a range of partners, because like we saw IBM there, Capgemini's a new significant partner of ours, but Accenture has always been a great partner. HP, their services business, et cetera, will continue to do that, as well as the partner community as a whole, because there's no way that we can have all that knowledge in our field. So that's how we'll do it. Make more videos.
Hi, Gabby from Digital News Asia. So earlier you already covered Africa and Latin America. I was wondering whether you could do the same for Asia Pacific. What's the company's kind of outlook on the region and specific focus areas, and especially with emerging economies?
Yeah. I'd say it's a little bit similar to Africa in the sense of, there are economies and sectors that are ready and rich with opportunity. We're not, all tech companies have the same issues in the geopolitical sense on a worldwide basis, so that goes for Europe and Asia, et cetera. So we're not immune to that. And, you have to respond to that, and the way we're responding to that is adjusting where we invest and how we invest. So, in places where the geopolitical situation is changing, we're actually focusing more on partnerships, more on, kind of working with companies that are local and that can represent us to, local markets. And then in, I'd say, Asia Pacific is vast. That's a vast question. ANZ, I'd say, is ahead of the curve when it comes to cloud computing in general. And I think we'll see probably some of our fastest uptake of workspace cloud in ANZ. I think that it opens lots of doors in the ASEAN world, because I think that we just make our partners much more capable. It's kind of like giving them an exoskeleton sort of suit, because they can do some of these things with less training, less knowledge, etc., but yet provide a high quality solution for a customer. I think that market's great. I think India is also another strong market for us. I think India is probably a market where we'll see it remain very much a sector-based market. So we're big in healthcare, banking, and retail there. Japan, a very mature market for us. We've been in Japan since 1999, and I think our technology has been, let's say, I think it's become more popular in Japan because people appreciate the issues around power, energy, travel, kind of green oriented, and we have a tremendous value proposition there. And then in China, we're doing all kinds of things with partnerships, et cetera, to try to keep that China market open for our products.
All right, Penny, how fast you can talk? There's going to be more questions. There's a mic right there.
Chandana Gopal from IDC. Quick question.
You don't have to talk that fast. Don't worry.
The question I had was with the workspace sharing. Are you considering opening it up to other non-Citrix applications, either using APIs? Because as much as you'd like it, enterprises don't have all just Citrix apps. So perhaps the APIs to link those into the framework you have.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that question, because if I left that impression, boy did I screw up. Okay, so workspace services is application agnostic. Okay, it's like we don't care who built the app or what the app is. You can plug it in. All right. Now we think here's what we think. Like if you had a choice between buying a blank iPhone, okay, that had an app store on it, all right, or an iPhone that had a suite of apps on it, which one would you prefer? I think you want the one that has the suite of apps on it, so that it's immediately useful, and if they're doing a great job, that actually helps establish the brand of the phone. So we're offering these apps, and actually they're built on the same set of platforms. We have a big data platform, so ShareFile, I talked about that this morning. We have a huge voice platform. I talked about the 1 billion minutes this morning. We have a huge video platform. I didn't talk much about that this morning. We have a huge workflow platform and social platform that's underneath a product called Podio. And so you'll see those things get exposed to enable, so that you probably enjoyed the Nimble Collective, but the whole idea of extreme workspaces that are, sort of custom designed to particular sophisticated workflows that involve multiples of people with multiples of communication and collaboration requirements, both synchronous and asynchronous, that then go in and out of different types of applications. You saw Maya, you saw Photoshop, we've got video apps running up there, other really sophisticated apps running in that environment, et cetera. So yeah, so you can plug in any mobile app, any Windows app, any Linux app, any web app. Okay, really important.
Hi, am I the last one? All right, last one. So I'm Vanessa Thompson from IDC. To build on Chandana's excellent question around kind of the API ecosystem here, we know that kind of Jesse's focus on workflow is based around microservices. Building out some sort of ecosystem around it looks really different to the partner ecosystem that you have today. We've seen a couple of acquisitions in this space, even just last week with Cisco and Tropo. How are you thinking about this ecosystem and how it's going to transition your business? Sorry, I had one last.
Yeah, I think it's too early for us to know. I think, so the way I think about this is in a few pieces. So first of all, our first ecosystem that's important to us would be our integration partners, all right, and who we've grown with from the era when they made their margins on selling product, okay, to an era when they made margins on selling services, as in installation and configuration, to an era now where they're doing managed services, all right, to, I think, where they need to go next is the higher abstraction types of services, where they're actually doing some of the things that we'll show you tomorrow, okay, around workspace automation and and give them tools that they're very capable of using to do that. So that's the first part of our ecosystem. I think the second part of our ecosystem we worry about, or want to bring along, is the third-party ecosystem of the Citrix-ready types of products, right? And that's a third party like Cerner or McKesson or Bloomberg that certifies their app all the way through device makers, whether they're scanners or certain specialized ticket printers and all of those things. So we want to make sure we bring them along with our APIs in the ecosystem. And I think the third one that we want to bring along is the ecosystem that's forming in the mobile app development world, because it's for business, okay? And so our partnership, for example, Coney is probably the hottest ticket in mobile app platforms, and so we're really pleased to be working with Coney. But I think that's an ecosystem where we want to get closer to and work with, and then so we have an SDK that we offer that allows all of this stuff we do in containerization to be built into apps very, very easily. And so then in a Zen mobile environment, we give those apps the kinds of security features and enhancements, again, that you'll see some. I won't steal the thunder from tomorrow. You'll see those kinds of enhancements go into that ecosystem. I think beyond that, and then obviously in the IoT area, it's anybody's guess. We're hoping that our integration partners will jump on this, and my guess is they will actually.
So just to wrap that up, a lot of the companies have been really acquisitive about these huge sets of developers, right?
Yeah.
So is that in your future? Because
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think this is one of those where you stick to your knitting and you build partnerships where it's just outside your knitting, and so I think that's the simple answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and speaking with everyone from around the world that's in the room. I hope that was helpful for everybody here. And Mark, thank you. And we now take a short break before everybody goes.
Thank you. Thank you for coming to the long break.